This video is all about news.gab.com, also known as Gab News for technology, privacy, and free speech. I found this site pretty recently while browsing Gab, which is a free speech social media platform created back in 2016. The Gab News page began on August 11th of 2019, so they've had some time to do a lot of articles. Anyways, the best way to judge Gab News is to simply read through some of their articles. So without further ado, here are the top 5 stories from the Gab News blog. Number 5. Facebook app for kids introduced children to adult strangers. The source for this story is a report by The Independent. Facebook released their app Messenger for Kids, which was supposed to only allow children to interact with each other. The problem is, the age restriction didn't apply to group chats, where grown men could easily get into contact with children. The flaw with the app seemed pretty obvious, and you would think a multi-billion-dollar tech company would have been able to catch this, but they didn't. It took 2 US senators raising concerns to Facebook directly for this to be caught and fixed. Bottom line is, do not let your kids use Facebook. 4. Hundreds of millions of phone numbers linked to Facebook accounts have been exposed. The source for this story is TechCrunch. A Facebook server with over 419 million records was left exposed because it did not have a password. Oh my god, a Facebook server did not have a password. What the hell? Not only were millions of user phone numbers exposed, but also general locations and full names. Numerous celebrity phone numbers were also exposed. And with your phone number, a hacker could perform a SIM swapping attack to reset your Facebook password, like they did to Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter. So yeah, if it's targeting the CEO of Twitter, they could easily target you too. Be careful when it comes to Facebook. Number 3. A convenient list of tech companies who hate the Second Amendment and support red flag laws, courtesy of the New York Times. Here's a list of companies that are obviously against the Second Amendment. These include Airbnb, Pinterest, Twitter, and a bunch of other big tech companies who want to control your life. If you land on the conservative side of things, I highly recommend checking out this list. Number 2. Facebook administrator fined by Sweden for offensive posts. This report was originally published by The National File. Sweden sucks. They arrest people for Facebook posts all the damn time. And here are 2 examples. 65-year-old Swedish woman and 91-year-old Swedish woman. Oh my goodness, stop attacking Swedish women. In this story, however, Peter Markstrom was fined for offensive posts that he didn't even make. He runs a Facebook group called Stand Up for Sweden, and the courts found that some of the people in that Facebook group were being offensive. And because Peter is the group administrator, he received a suspended sentence and a fine of over $2,000. Again, he didn't even make an offensive post. The group has nearly 250,000 users, but Peter was sent to court because a handful of them offended the Swedish court. Honestly, thank God I do not live in Sweden. If you're watching this channel, chances are Sweden hates you, because Sweden hates anything offensive, and they will fine you thousands of dollars for it. Like, oh my god. God bless America. Number 1. YouTube removes 100,000 videos and bans 17,000 channels for hate speech. That's according to a public statement by YouTube. They even admit that in a single business quarter, they have doubled the amount of comments that they delete from YouTube. Let's get that clear, because this is especially a problem on my channel. It's not me deleting the comments. YouTube themselves admit that they are doubling the amounts of the comments that they delete. They openly admit that although they have about 10,000 trusted flaggers, most of these bans and deletions have been done through the algorithm, which means no human being is actually looking at these channels. This coincides with the ban of James Allsup and the Iconoclast off of YouTube. Remember, this was back in September of 2019. According to both of them, YouTube gave no reason for their ban, no strikes, just ban without even a word. I personally dislike James Allsup, yes, but for YouTube to just randomly delete people is obviously insane. I don't trust Susan Wojcicki to decide what I can and cannot see. These guys, both Iconoclast and James Alsop, should not have been deleted without at least speaking to a human being first. Come up with some transparency, with actual policy violations. Use the channel strike system. That is how things should be done. Because right now, on an increasing basis, YouTube is deleting channels without any strikes. So, those are the top 5 stories from Gab News blog. For a normie, these stories might seem whiny and exaggerated, and to that I say, the New York Times, TechCrunch, The Independent, YouTube themselves, are you just going to disregard all of these outlets? Listen, I know the label of Gab might be a turnoff, but honestly, a lot of their stories are very important. When it comes to Gab and Parler and all these other free speech websites, I always have the same opinion. America needs freedom of speech. It is our First Amendment right. And yet, big tech censorship is standing in the way of that. So, if you care about freedom of speech, I highly recommend you subscribe to this channel. I often cover the topic, and I'm often suggesting these different sites you should use. Gab, Parler, Free Speech Tube, and all the rest. If you have a suggestion, please leave it in the comments down below so I can check it out and do a video on it. Guys, I will see you later.